And folks, I'm uploading a video to Bitchute YouTube and recording the video simultaneously, so we will see what we will see. I was going to use the background for the video, but frankly it's kind of boring, and this is a much better background. If you don't have a Liberty device, please get one. You can get a 45 high point for not very much money. It's nothing to show off, but it will go bang. Take it to the range or the woods, run 50 rounds through it, police your brass, and you're good to go. A 45 is the perfect home defense round. It doesn't have too much recoil, it doesn't over-penetrate, it's just a nice little round that men, women, and children feel comfortable with. Or I guess if you had very small hands, you'd go to a 9 or a 380 or even smaller, because even a 22 is better than nothing by a long shot. So, or even a Derringer or something like a 1 or 2 shot, because the noise has a lot to do with it. So anything, literally anything that goes bang is better than pepper spray. But a couple bottles of pepper spray are also a very nice backup. Because it's all about distance. You know, the Liberty device works at a distance, a great distance. But you're talking about in your house, in your car kind of thing with looters and rioters and stuff like that. And pepper spray, the big bottles actually work at a pretty good distance. For inside the house, it's okay. But you want both, because you want those options of reaching out and touching somebody like 15, 20 feet away. If you don't have that, they come closer, you got to use pepper spray, which is like, you know, less than 10 feet distance, and you're getting some of it on yourself. And, you know, the absolute last resort would be a bladed tool. If you have a comics kit, I wonder if this is going to get me in trouble with YouTube. If you have a comics kit project to shill, put it in the links below. I will pin it so people will see it. Definitely don't be shy about promoting yourself on this channel's too small, really, but go on the big channels and definitely promote yourself. Or click the links to support the channel and my Coke and Southeast Asian prostitute habit. Check out Magus 7 by a fat little hobbit. Comic Skate's own, what's his face? He's got long hair and he's kind of chubby. Kind of looks like a chipmunk. Miller, that's Mike Miller. I love J.K. Rowling's because she shows I hope he's not listening to this video. She shows the intolerance of the left. Hey, I've got beliefs and feelings that are diverse from your beliefs and feelings. She types words on a keyboard, and people read them, and because of those words, she gets struggle snuggle threats and mortal extinguishment threats by people who are clearly not mentally ill. It is perfectly normal and healthy to threaten to extinguish someone because they said that only women are women. That is not literally denying someone existence. That is something a mentally ill person says. You still exist. You're probably out jogging right now. You're literally causing little distortions in space-time with your moving mass. You have the right to exist. This isn't the Middle East. JK is not going to throw you off the rooftop. But other spiritual entities also have the right to feel, think, and express themselves differently. Humans aren't an ant colony. If humans all thought in lockstep, it would be a very boring world. And 10 million years ago, we would never have left our arboreal paradise and start walking the grasslands. In fact, you're only trans because you are different and you notice differences. And you live in America where diversity of thought is allowed. If you're gay in Africa or the Middle East, you're going to have a hard time. But in America, you can hold marches with naked adults dancing in front of cross-dressing children. You can even have cross-dressing little boys stripping on stage, to the prurient pleasure of gay men who stuff money in their underwear. That is totally normal and healthy, not at all the sign of a perverse, degenerate society that has turned away from God or even turned away from their ancestors. Because drag kids are a thing, right? And if you think it's a sickness that only atomic hellfire can cleanse, then you're the wrong thinker. We have progressed so much. At one time, intolerant bigots would have gone there, extinguished the adults responsible, and burned the place to ashes, then sprinkled holy water over the charred remains. But we aren't such ignorant savages anymore. Now we know that sexualizing children is actually the sign of a strong, healthy society. We were always at war with Oceania, and this totally isn't peak Weimar, or even Sodom and Gomorrah. Though if God was going to rain hellfire down anywhere, San Francisco, New York, and the entirety of the Middle East would be great places to start. Talking to you, God. They preach tolerance, but it's a one-way street. Yeah, you're free to dress your child like a whore and pimp him out, but if people aren't free to criticize that behavior, then it's not a tolerant society. They don't want tolerance, they want authority. They want a brutal, oppressive regime. Power comes at the muzzle of a Liberty device. Power also comes from a smartphone. If you post a difference of opinion, they will try to get you and your spouse fired and your kids attacked and expelled. The blue states, Ted Wheelers, Jacob Fraze, Jenny Durkins, they let Antifa and BLM go on for way too long. It started under Obama. Blue cities got more and more violent. I've seen clips from Twitter that I can't show on YouTube or else they'll just remove it. Some of those blue cities are war zones. People walk around after filming these still moving bodies as they lay bleeding to death. They don't even bother applying first aid, mostly because it's pointless and they don't care. Every weekend, the same people are going to kill the same people. Some city council member said, "Come on, guys, we're better than this." No, you're not. Every weekend in Chicago, a dozen people are extinguished. But all of a sudden, they're wringing their hands over 2 dozen? Why bother? In a month, 2 dozen will be the new normal. They probably hold funerals in groups, but there are drive-bys at those. It's going to save lives just to not have funerals at all. BLM killed an 8-year-old girl last night. A car was trying to turn around, and one of the BLM guys opened fire on the car, murdering an 8-year-old child. Congratulations, you effing developmentally disabled people. You're really making a name for yourself. You have a black mom wondering why her black daughter was murdered by a group of black men, and I would love to hear your explanation for that. But, snitches get stitches. You ever think maybe that wasn't such a good policy? Just, maybe think about chess instead of checkers, just for once. The name of the event is Black Lives Matter, but they don't. If a child's life doesn't matter, then what is your movement for? It's just an excuse to loot Air Jordans and smartphones. Just be honest about it. In Chaz last week, BLM took a 16-year-old from this mortal coil. They had to waste time driving around looking for an exit because they had blocked all the roads off. And like the effing developmentally disabled people they are, they didn't have anyone manning the posts. Oh, I'm sorry for that microaggression. They didn't have any person Xing the posts because the average IQ of that group is probably about 85. But Jenny Durkin said it's just a street fair. When you elect blue politicians, you get Aleppo. If AOC wants to defund the police, then you better defund Congress first, then the mayors and governors. If you want government, make it a voluntary position. Of course, if you defund the police, the merchants will just have their own police force, and everyone will open carry. Because who's going to stop you from openly carrying or concealed carrying? And then you'll have blue gangs, red gangs, and people think that they will take over. Not a chance. The merchants have all the money. The malls would be guarded by SWAT guys with plate carriers with 308s. Please, somebody send me a 308. Pretty please? I mean, if it's legal. I guess technically you'd have to send it to an FFL. But, if you've got one laying around, let me know. I know the odds are very low asking for something like that, but technically they're greater than zero, so I'm just putting it out there. I've seen a lot of left-wing intolerance online, but nothing compares to the violence that trans people threaten you with. When they say that you're denying their existence, I think that they sort of believe it. It's like deep down they know that the whole thing is an emperor has no clothes situation. All it takes is one little kid to ask, "Crikey, mate, why is this bloke dressed like a Sheila?" They think their life will be better once they transition, but it isn't. The self-harm rates are the same. It literally doesn't change. I think it's 41%, which implies that there is an underlying issue that should be addressed first. But social media companies will just kick you off for that. And yeah, I know I'm not going to be here next year. It sucks, but c'est la vie. Bianca, you could just not be an asshole. Sorry, at this point, I think it's genetic. When someone with a huge platform like JK says that only women bleed, the mentally ill kids on Twitter panic and try to shut her down because what if it spreads like ideas do? What if the media started talking about it? What if they referred to it as mental illness arising out of mass hysteria? Think about how incredibly biased the media is. They are 100% on board with the BLT pronouns, even drag kids. Hell, they're even on board with media censorship as long as it's right-of-center media. Yes, I'm serious. If the mainstream media started focusing on people who had regrets post-transition or addressed the issues of mental illness, abuse, and drug use, the other media sources would call them Austrian corporals of the 1930s. Even if all the rest of their media interpretation was left-wing biased, it's not enough. You're either 100% on board or you are canceled. It's why the far left is dragging the window left. Even the conservatives are moving left. What are they conserving? America will be a Mexican majority in 20 years. Whites under 16 are a minority right now. America has been actively bringing in the Spanish to replace them since 1965. In the 50s, MacArthur knew who the enemy was. MacArthur didn't go far enough rooting them out. So very few large platforms will speak out against the Bolshevikism. That when a large platform does, they get scared. And JK isn't backing down. Stephen King bent over immediately when he got the slightest pressure. The West is like Lord of the Flies. The adults have left the building, and every idea children put forth is taken seriously. Kids are idiots. They should not be setting policy, and in a healthy society, they wouldn't be. But the people who control the media are pushing this. Here's an example, and don't get offended before I explain. The vast majority of advertising shows mixed couples. So you're saying you have a problem with that? No, I'm stating a fact. If mixed couples are 5% in an area, but the ads are 10%, then the media is crafting a narrative. They are lying to you to push an agenda, but they have simultaneously made people so scared to mention it that their narrative goes unopposed. If you mention it, they will immediately ad hominem you. In fact, they will personally attack you totally disproportionate to your simple inquiry. Hey, I can't help but notice that in your ad for zero population growth, you only showed blonde-haired, blue-eyed people. Hey, by the way, who funded this advertisement? What are their names? Hello, is anyone there? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills sometimes. So some kids made a noose out of pizza dough. They made no mention of race. It's a video going around on Twitter causing idiots on the blue checkmark side to spurg out. Over the weekend, 100, mostly black people, and this is from the black sheriff himself who said this, including children, were killed by black men. Not a peep from the blue checkmarks. They're concerned about a white kid with a pizza dough noose joking around. And the white kid never mentioned race at all. Because it's all they have to build their hatred around. You're never going to have hundreds of whites thinning the black herd, unless, I guess, the Civil War II pops off. The media has an agenda, and it's not to report the news. Look at who works for the media. Follow their accounts. Within 6 months, you will understand about 90% of the story. Okay, I don't know how I got here from J.K. Rowling causing a row and trans kids, but like I said, I'm here for a good time, not a long time. Follow me on Bitchute because I am not long for this platform. If you want to support the channel, click the links, hit me up on Coffee, PayPal, whatever. Thank you to those who have sent me comics. You know who you are. 3 different people sent me a bunch of comics worth quite a pretty penny. Thank you for that. Otherwise, if you want to shill your thing, like I said, you can't be shy about shameless self-promotion. If you're selling a comic, you've got to either be a shameless self-promoter yourself, or you got to get someone on your side who has no shame, who just you don't want to be a Nasser and bring it up, like spam the chat with links when there's like 6 people in the chat. You don't want to do that, but you want to look for opportunities to bring it up. But there's a fine line. Oh, man, God, I shouldn't have brought up Nasser. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, guys. I'll see you on the next episode.